At the Academy for Offensive Mags, everyone agrees on one thing. There's no place for healers here. But our MC thinks differently. Will is the best healer around, yet he still enrolls in this academy. Everyone expects him to fail miserably. One teacher even decides to prove it by setting up a mock battle. The moment the fight starts, the teacher uses oath magic to trap Will, but Will easily dodges every attack, boosting his speed with healing magic. The teacher almost catches him in an earth trap, but Will dodges again. Then he goes on the offensive. He closes the distance and strikes with his dagger. Of course, the attack doesn't work. The teacher covers himself in impenetrable oath armor, confident that a weak healer with no offensive magic can't touch him. But Will knows how to deal with it. In this world, most mags limit their power because their bodies can't handle their full strength. Pushing past that limit causes the body to break down. But if Will removes that limiter, he can unleash massive power at the cost of destroying his own body. And that's absolutely fine with him. He's a healer anyway. Will rushes forward with a supercharged fist. His arms shatter as he smashes straight through the teacher's earth armor. The teacher doesn't even have time to react. He's knocked out instantly. So why is a healer in this academy? Because last time everyone else was useless and Will died because of it. Here's what happened back then. You would think that being good at a job would earn you the respect you deserve from your seniors, right? Well, that's not the case with our boy. He literally gets stabbed by his superior for doing an exceptional job. Will is an ordinary young man with an extraordinary healing ability, a one-of-a-kind power that only he possesses in the entire world. He could literally heal even the ghastliest injuries like it was child's play. Lost your arm? No big deal. Broke and erect it back up from the stump within seconds. Currently, he is serving alongside the last remaining soldiers on the front lines who are fighting against a demonic army led by demon lords. The very forces responsible for ravaging the kingdom of Grandald. The soldiers are fighting tooth and nail, trying their absolute best to repel the demonic forces which have destroyed the rest of the world already. As for our boy, he has no battle experience. So, he is tasked with healing the injured, essentially pulling them back from the verge of death. But let's be real. These mortals don't stand a chance against terrifying creatures that have emerged from the depths of hell itself. That's why the soldiers keep returning with missing limbs, and our boy continues to heal them diligently. Eventually, however, the soldiers grow weary of fighting over and over, only to get injured again. They have accepted their cruel reality. They are cooked. They would rather die on the battlefield and get over this already. That's exactly the reason our boy was stabbed by his captain. The captain believes that Will doesn't understand the pain and horror the soldiers endure every time they are forced to return to the battlefield. Ultimately, the hopeless soldiers abandon the defensive line, allowing the giant monsters to begin ravaging the remnants of the kingdom. Will watches helplessly as everyone dies before his very eyes, watching his home fall apart. Gazing up at that massive dragon, he finally realizes the kind of horror those soldiers have been living through. It was in that moment that his greatest strength became his biggest regret. If only he had what it took to fight on the battlefield, he could have ensured the survival of the people around him. With a burning desire to defend his kingdom with his own two hands, Bro grabs a literal pebble from the ground and begins charging at the dragon. Of course, his ridiculous attempt to fight a mighty dragon with a mere stone results in his demise. However, predictably, he wakes up almost 5 years in the past, right before he earned the title of the world's greatest healer, a title he later came to resent. Determined not to repeat his past regrets, he decides to enroll in an academy that specializes in offensive magic rather than healing. And his first pick for the institute is Schwartz Academy, a school dedicated solely to combat arts. In this world, the arts of healing and the art of using offensive magic can't coexist side by side, forcing the young mags to opt for one profession only. However, Will decides to break this unspoken rule and achieve what he failed in his past life. He plans to wield his past knowledge in an effort to nurture himself in a way that not only he knows how to heal, but also knows how to fight by himself. To get the ball rolling, he must enroll in one of the most prestigious MIAs this world has to offer, the Schwartz Academia. It's believed that this academy can nurture young talent into first-class offensive magic-wielding mags. Not to mention, the most talented battle mage of Will's past life was also a graduate of this academy. However, there's a problem. Will is a healing mage, so getting into Schwartz wouldn't be straightforward. Usually, nobles spend a fortune to have their dim-witted offspring enrolled in this academy. But our boy is currently broke. Even if he starts earning his bread and butter using his healing skills, he won't be able to save enough before the enrollment deadline arrives. As he puts his predicament, his sister enters the room. Seeing her alive causes his eyes to well up with tears. Noticing his reaction, she assumes his stomach must be aching for him to tear up like that. He quickly wipes off the moisture and bluffs, claiming something just irritated his eye. Internally, however, he can barely contain the joy of seeing his sister alive. He vows to protect her this time from the catastrophe that consumed her life previously. And not just her, He's going to make sure to protect everyone he failed to save before. Suddenly, his mind sparks with an idea. He seems to have figured out his next step forward. But before we proceed, here is a little context about the Magic Academy Federation. It's an organization that oversees all magicmies residing in the kingdom, responsible for dishing out regulations and curriculum for all magical education. At this time, the chairman of the Federation is also the principal of Schwartz Academy. But for some reason, the chairman has completely stopped paying attention to the Federation. Soon, the reason became apparent. It was due to his sick granddaughter, Marie. By the way, this doting grandpa's name is Ornlum Goldrand, the chairman of the Magic Academy Federation and principal of Schwartz Academy. The old man promised his girl that he would find a capable healing magician who could set her free from her misery. However, in our boy's previous life, his granddaughter passed away because the chairman failed to find a capable magician in time. That's exactly why my guy sneaks right into the chairman's granddaughter's room. Conveniently enough, our boy doesn't even have to introduce himself to the chairman, who is already present there. The old man already knows about the scholarship student who hails from Heilig. After all, Will is renowned throughout the kingdom for the exceptional talent he possesses in healing magic. This is exactly why the chairman finds it unfitting for someone of our boy's caliber to be sneaking around like a thief. Internally, Will admits his right. Perhaps if it weren't for his past life experience, he wouldn't have dared to infiltrate someone's personal space. But then again, formalities are a luxury they can't afford right now. He had to get right in, for only he can heal her. Of course, the old man knows that nothing comes without a price, and he wants this young gun to be clear about his intentions. Will insists that time is of the essence. Her treatment takes precedence over negotiations. Eventually, the old man gives the permission our boy needs. He sits by the bedside, ready to cure her illness. But the old man's intense gaze catches his attention, staring down into our boy's soul. The chairman is practically broadcasting that one wrong move, and our boy is done for. So, Will takes a deep breath, ready to mess up, and starts his healing mojo. While he is dishing out this healing magic, he realizes that his mana pool has shrunk compared to his past life. But what matters more is the perfect execution of the healing magic formulas, which thankfully he remembers very clearly. After a while, the granddaughter finally opens her eyes. The first thing she notices is the charming prince who rescued her from a life-or-death situation. She gets totally flustered and rolls over to the other side in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Grandpa is still in disbelief that his grandchild has actually returned from a Kamiyomao state. The girl affirms her return. She even claims that she hasn't felt this good in years. The doting grandpa's eyes misted up with tears of joy. The worries that have been weighing him down for so long have finally been lifted, and it's all thanks to our boy. A short time later, both men settle down in the living room. After expressing due gratitude, the old man is willing to grant any wish our boy harbors. Will assures him that he won't be demanding anything absurd. His wish is well within the chairman's power. At this point, it's common knowledge that there is no one next to Will when it comes to healing magic. He sits at the pinnacle, having no more room for growth. That's exactly why he wants to explore a different skill set. He wants to enroll in Schwartz Academy. Of course, the old man finds this absurd. Force someone to abandon their natural aptitude to explore something entirely unfamiliar sounds unusual. But since the old man had already made his promise, he's going to honor it. He shakes hands with the young man, promising to keep his end of the bargain. Somewhere in the academy, a seemingly toxic teacher is reviewing our boy's enrollment profile. He finds the chairman's actions to be quite bold, enrolling a healing mage who has zero offensive skills into a combat school. Eventually, the day of the entrance ceremony arrives and the new entrants gather in the academy's assembly hall. Up on the pedestal, the chairman is there to pitch and glaze his institute. Schwartz Academy is a fully residential school specializing in offensive magic with its own unique curriculum. Its vast campus houses multiple training grounds. And things only get better with the advanced research facilities and a massive library, making it stand out even more. Influential graduates are active even beyond the academy, making it possible to receive various forms of support from the kingdom. If I had to sum it up, there is no other institute that provides this kind of environment to study the intricacies of offensive magic. Let's not forget that our boy is just a mere healer enrolling in this academy, which has been unprecedented up until now. So, it goes without saying that his path ahead will be paved with thorns. But my guy is ready to face whatever lies ahead as long as he becomes the offensive mage he desires to be. However, reality is often far from expectation. The first class after the entrance ceremony takes place, and Will can be seen sweating bullets. He is supposed to hit a target with a fire magic spell. Somehow, he manages to activate a fire spell, but it fizzles out as soon as it appears. And it's not the first time this has happened. To make matters worse, his teacher is a total piece of trash who tries to bully our boy by using his weakness as leverage. Will can only attend the class if he successfully manages to hit the dummy. Until he manages to achieve this, he is forced to continue his practice in the training grounds on the other side of the school building. Will insists that his teacher at least show him the ropes, or else he would never be able to learn it properly. Then again, it was clear from the start that this particular teacher had a hate boner for our boy. To him, wasting time teaching a healer isn't the best investment. Will begs him to at least allow him access to the library so that he can learn something from the theory. Once again, the bastard humiliates our boy for being a mere healer, claiming they have no literature that could be used by his kind. Taking advantage of the situation, a blonde douchebag strikes down the healer with devious magical backshots, forcing Will to collapse on the ground. The poor guy didn't even expect the sudden attack, but the bully thinks it's just more of a reason to take advantage of the healer for being so weak. He boasts the Academy's offensive rank status, so any softy healers like Will can get lost for daring to take admission. This is the first time I'm watching a teacher gang up on the student with the bully, too. Both of them dog-walk Will as if he were the lowest trash in their eyes. That night, our boy appears exhausted by the bench. His efforts for learning offensive magic has so far ended in the gutter. He knew it would be a pain in the ass simply because of the difference between healing and offensive magic. Both draw their own kind of energy source. Mana is the power of the mind, a mage's ultimate weapon which he activates through formulas. Mana also moves according to the will of the caster. Using that mana for explosion or firepower gives you offensive magic. Healers, on the other hand, possess calm mana, but that's where the Schwartz Academy comes into play. They are the best at raising offensive mags, so there has to be a way for him to refine dynamic mana. Will strongly believes that he could manipulate his mana in a way that could convert static mana into dynamic mana, the biggest obstacle in his way. He can't even attend classes right now because the shitty teacher won't allow him. Will refuses to give up, hoping to encounter that one person who helped him in his previous life. Just because of her alone, his choice to have come to this academy may end up being worth the pain. Unfortunately, he can't continue blindly, so he thinks of other ways. But suddenly, a familiar voice confronts him for staying out late. When Will looks at this person's gorgeous appearance, he sees Veronica, an extremely competent warrior who fought alongside him. She was one of the highest class offensive mags he ever knew, and in the end, he had to grieve her loss in the tragic war. Luckily, she's alive in this regressed timeline. But before they could even talk, this woman whips out the same sword that can cut anything in half. This girl looks like a female Gojo with Sukuna's abilities. The fact that she's pointing her sword at him isn't exactly pleasant. But it turns out she's hunting down a suspicious student around campus, making her wonder if Will is that same troublesome student. Our boy quickly clarifies that it's absolutely not that guy because on the off chance she swings at him, he's going to need another isekai regression from Truck-kun again. She believes him, bringing him calm, and he asks to confirm if she's really Veronica. The woman feels offended that he addresses teachers so casually, bringing him shame and shock. He knew that she was older than him in his previous life, but not that much older. Turns out she's actually a prodigy who skipped grades and got promoted to a professor right away, which is totally unsurprising considering her god-tier talent. This is the opportunity that Will has been waiting for, the shooting star that could help him learn offensive magic at last. Will expresses interest in taking Veronica's class, knowing that she's his one last hope. He inquires about the enrollment procedure, but she immediately rejects him, stating that she doesn't have any classes initiated. Since she's a new teacher who previously got promoted from numerous classes, she has no idea of how things work here. For this year, Veronica's current position is to serve as an assistant instructor to handle certain questions. The plan was to use her youthful mind to connect with the students closer to her age, which would make her a great support for them. However, what bugs her is how no one dares to approach her for any kind of consultation. Well, our boy can exactly tell why. It's because this woman takes out her murder weapon at the slightest inconvenience. But from his point of view, this is just an excellent opportunity for him to exploit Veronica. He doesn't even have to take her classes and can simply use her to teach him privately. So, he asks her a question, knowing it's her job to answer. Being blunt right away, this man inquires how he should approach learning offensive magic as a healer. From his words, Veronica instantly realizes that is not an ordinary student, having sensed his odd mana flow composition. She now remembers that this guy is the notorious freshman who joined the Schwartz Academy. In all her years, she even admits never seeing a regular healer trying to learn offensive magic. The good thing at Schwartz is that the Academy offers a method to cultivate something called dynamic mana. It's a foundation that our boy believes will serve him as the perfect start. And when Veronica confirms its existence, Will gets really excited, thinking that there's a shot. One small problem. This woman straight up tells him that his dumbass won't be able to learn offensive magic even with that method. This revelation genuinely astonishes our boy, especially when Veronica explains that he already has far too much static mana. This means that even if he fosters dynamic mana from the ground up, most of it will convert and dissolve into static mana anyway. And if he tried to cultivate dynamic mana using some other method, The mixing of two mana qualities will make it impossible for him to use any kind of offensive magic. Reality looks bleak. Bro went ahead and changed only to realize that there is literally no way for a regular healer to learn offensive magic. Will is starting to regret not receiving an instruction manual when Truck-kun regressed his ass. Well, he doesn't want to give up, even if it means becoming the Einstein of his generation to invent a new method. Thanking the assistant professor, he's about to leave when suddenly Veronica stops him to finish her point. She continues from earlier, stating that while it's true that healers can't use offensive magic, there is one caveat that could allow a healer to become an offensive mage. The girl confused the __ out of his ass because even our boy can't deal with that logic. Veronica demonstrates her point by revealing her specially carved sword of iron, a weapon that can slash and defeat enemies. She then talks about the bench next to them, which is made of wood capable of being used by sitting on it. In other words, the smooth-brain professor is saying water is wet and the floor is made out of floor. But here's the twist. She picks up the bench and explains that even if she used it to beat the living daylights out of someone, it would still be a weapon. Hilariously, Will is starting to wonder how this muscle mommy can even lift such a heavy bench with those noodle arms. Anyway, Veronica's approach is that even if something is made for a different purpose, one can use it however they like. To personalize her point, she demonstrates through her hand and proceeds to pat his face, causing this man to blush. This is a wet dream for most men until she ends up flicking the __ out of his face, explaining how she used her hand for two purposes just now. She does end up hitting him way too hard. But anyway, the point remains the same. Same thing, but different usage. Will's eyes finally open. He begins to wonder if he can use his healing magic as an offense. All this time, he never even entertained the idea. The very reason both factions of mags disagree with each other is because of the differences that lie in their own forms of mana. But in Veronica's eyes, this kid is different. She thinks that is already taking a leap by enrolling into an offensive magic academy. And even his mana signifies that is not purely a healer. This is an observation that not even Will himself took notice, making him wonder if this is one of the abilities given to him by Truck-kun. Pointing her blade at his neck, she orders him to become aware and ignite the aggressive passion within his soul. If he does that, he'll become unstoppable and obliterate anyone who stands in his way. The very next day arrives with our boy reflecting on his teacher's conversation from yesterday. She used many different examples to demonstrate her point. And what really stuns him is why she doesn't seem to have any kind of scrutiny against regular healers. Then there's the fact that she could come up with a theory on the spot that made sense. Will is starting to think that she's using the same method herself, but his train of thought is interrupted by an instructor rudely calling him healer. Today's class is actually special. Since there'll be a bunch of one-on-one battles going on, he's capable of participating alongside the others. Of course, whether he can use offensive magic or not is his own problem to deal with. The scumbag teacher has also finalized his pairings, and without a shadow of a doubt, this man paired our boy against the blonde douchebag from the other day. Our boy isn't looking forward to this match against the Pulpus because the kid is from a famous noble academy and has all the backing. He's a trust fund baby, but even more than that, he's actually a powerful offensive mage. Apulpus already assumes victory and trash talks our boy, wondering if he'll run back to mommy after getting destroyed. Our boy is trying his absolute hardest to try and not be rage-baited by this imbecile. Even though he's from the future and knows is against the kid, it's still pissing him off. The good thing is that Will wants to test out Veronica's theory in action, so he shares interest in the fight. He asks for the professor's attention and refuses to forfeit. Instead, our boy's got a proposal sharing how he doesn't have any talent for offensive magic at all, which would be a waste of time for this fight. So, this raises the stakes and straight up declares that he'll drop out of Schwartz Academy if he loses this match. The professor is thrilled to hear those words, but the flip side is that if our boy wins, he would be permitted to take regular classes. It's an insulting proposal, but Apulpus is so arrogant that he laughs his ass off, stating how ridiculous the idea of a victory truly is. He even thinks Will is mega coping in his Dulu Island with no shot of winning. The instructor is fed up with them and accepts the proposal, instructing both contestants to take position. He gestures at the start of the match, which kicks off with calmly activating offensive magic. He manifests a bunch of radiating daggers. This is his specialty called knife creation magic. Basically, bro is Walmart Gilgamesh with microp penis swords for a weapon, blasting all of those daggers in Will's direction. He spouts that there's no way for a shitty healer to defend himself. But our boy's out here doing the boot-up pose and __, ready to activate his domain expansion. The moment he activates his technique, he's able to match the speed of the daggers and concisely dodge all of them. This is a technique called life manipulation, something we'll use to manipulate the very essence of living creatures near him, boosting their HP to the absolute limit. But that's not all. He could also use it as an attack from this same approach. Apulpus panics and calls it a shitty fluke, but our boys are farming in the same pose. He catches Walmart Gilgamesh's dagger before slashing all the others with Shiru Emiya's swag. The weapons falter and have done 0 damage thus far. But our boy is just getting started, and with a single dagger, he intends to end this fight.